Hey MennoNerds, this is Deborah. Happy first day of spring, and I want to continue the conversation that Micael started about evangelism. I really appreciate what Micael had to say, because evangelism is definitely something that historically and in the Bible we are taught to do, and yet it is so difficult in our day and age, especially those of us who live in Western societies, to really stand out and do what the Bible says. You know, we're contending against a lot of cultural pressures to normalize all religions, to accept religious pluralism, to be friendly and to not offend people, and like Rob said in his message, that sometimes when we preach the gospel, it does offend people, and there's no getting around it. So I want to talk today about 5 different types of evangelism, because I go to one of those stereotypical churches where the pastor does 3 points in a poem, but instead of doing 3 points, I thought I'd skip the poem and give you an extra 2 points for free. So the first type of evangelism I want to talk about is what I call fire and brimstone, and I think we're all acquainted with fire and brimstone, because that's a lot of what happens in the Southern Baptist churches and other denominations as well, where basically the pastor says you have to believe in God or else you're going to die in a car crash on the way home and you're all going to die and go to hell. Okay, well, I personally don't think I would go for a faith like that, because I don't agree that we should accept the gospel based on fear. But I guess it does have its place at times, because the gospel is serious and we shouldn't take it lightly. The second type of evangelism is what I call cotton candy evangelism, and that's basically where we pick and choose what we like about the Bible and what we don't like, and we try to make it bite-sized, accessible for people, which is good in a way, because if you put too many theological ideas into someone's mouth who's a newborn Christian, how are they going to know how to digest it? On the other hand, I think we have a real challenge with that, because oftentimes we end up being arrogant about ourselves and thinking that our beliefs are more important than what the Bible actually says. The third type of evangelism I want to talk about is what's called evangelismphobia, and this is what Micael talked about in his blog. Basically, I lived in evangelismphobia for a long time. It's where you're too scared to talk about the gospel to other people, and it's very common because sometimes people will say things like, oh, we should preach the gospel using our actions and only if absolutely necessary use our words, which is true, because I believe that we should first and foremost be reaching out to other people and loving people and caring about their needs. But it's also a challenge, because oftentimes we just use it as a cop-out to say, I really don't want to preach the gospel, so hopefully someone somewhere along the line is going to recognize that I'm different than the world, and half the time they don't, because there are a lot of moral people out there who are not Christian, so they don't really stand out. Number 4, I want to talk about people who just don't evangelize, period. Those are very common in our day and age, people who say, oh, let's just accept everything and my religion is no different than your religion. That's probably the worst, because it's apathetic. And the 5th is actual downright evangelism, which is what we're called to do. It's people who love God and love each other and love the church and try to find the balance between words and actions. So those are my thoughts, and happy to continue this conversation with you guys. Talk to you later.